Hey, my love. So we're gonna discuss we're going to discuss about we're going to discuss ego death. There you go. So just to define what ego is a sense of self, or perceived sense of self, and ego death in the name is pretty self-explanatory. Sense of destroying your sense of self. There you go. So, uh, there's a couple of ways that you might have an ego death. There's near death experiences. There's the spiritual community that will do meditations, breath work, um, stuff like that. And then there's the psychedelics. And part or what I've seen in the spiritual slash um, psychedelic community, like what I've been exposed to at least, has they have this like negative connotation of an ego. Uh, they have this like connotation of narcissism and selfishness and jealousy, insecurity, hatred, and possessiveness. And people will go to these spiritual or psychedelic communities and do all these things to have an ego death, and will have, let's say, repeated psychedelic journeys just to get rid of that ego. And it's really not the way to go about it. I think some people think having multiple journeys will eventually get rid of their ego, and I think that's the wrong way to go about it. Yeah, you will have an ego death at that time, and maybe you'll have a per se ego death after the session. But I think if anything, it gives you. I think that people should go about it as you're not getting rid of your ego per se, but you're now in control of your ego. So your ego is not bad. You shouldn't think of your ego as this bad thing. Yes, it can be bad, just like with anything in life. Having too much of this will do you bad. But in this case, ego death or it's not the target. The target here, the goal here, is to have an awareness of your ego. That means being mindful of your actions and being mindful of your behaviors and such. Because if you let your ego control you, that's where all those negative connotations come from, selfishness, narcissism, hatred, all those negative feelings or traits. That's because now your ego is in control. So how I like to think about it is your ego is like a bodyguard. You hire a bodyguard to protect you, to make sure everything is safe, everything is under control, and if there's anything wrong, it will do something about it, right? But you're the boss. You're the boss of the ego, the bodyguard. you tell it what to do, what are its duties, and stuff like that. You shouldn't get to the point where now the ego, the bodyguard, right, is now controlling over you and now is becoming the boss and overriding everything. So, as long as we're human, we will always have an ego. There's no such thing as being egoless, having no ego at all. You'll always have an ego as part of the human nature, have part of the human experience, and that's okay. That's the ego will help us. Like, having those negative feelings will help us grow if you learn from it. So that's all I have to say. I think that's all I have to say. Moral to the story, you're always gonna have an ego. The goal is to be in control of your ego and maintain your ego, having a healthy amount of ego, because you'll always have that. You shouldn't strive to have an ego death and be this egoless person. You should strive to be mindful of your actions, of your behaviors. And it's okay to have an ego. It's part of life. You'll go through things in life, you'll have feelings in life, and that's what makes us grow, and that makes us human. So I think that's all I have to say. I'll probably go back to this topic, but at the moment, that's all I have to say. Alright, bye.